The camera sweeps over the sprawling Los Angeles skyline, golden hour light kissing the city's edges as the night promises something electric. The historic El Capitan Theater glows, its marquee flashing Margot Robbie's name alongside Jimmy Kimmel's. Inside, a crowd pulses with excitement. Fans, media, industry, insiders, all waiting for a glimpse of Hollywood's brightest star, fresh from the unprecedented success of Barbie. The air hums with expectation, a buzz of cameras clicking, murmured speculations, and whispered bets on what tonight's interview might reveal. Margot, the epitome of grace and strength, sits poised in the guest chair, her smile warm, her demeanor composed, an icon ready to discuss feminism, power, and the politics that swirl beneath Hollywood's glamorous surface. The opening minutes drift like a warm breeze, jokes about the Australian outback, playful nods to the film's pink aesthetic, laughter echoing across the studio. But then, the tone shifts. Jimmy Kimmel's smile tightens. His eyes glint with a sharper edge as he drops a veiled quip about the film's feminist message, one that touches on the commodification of women in Hollywood, a battleground Margot has long known all too well. The audience laughs reflexively, but Margot's smile falters. A flicker of something unreadable passes across her face. The laughter dims, the energy shifts palpably. The air grows heavy with anticipation and unease. This is no longer a light-hearted chat. It's a reckoning. Margot's gaze sharpens. With measured calm, she leans forward, voice steady but edged with steel. That kind of joke. It's why women are still struggling for real respect, for agency, for space beyond being the pretty face. It's not just a punchline, it's the reality. The applause rises, tentative at first, then swelling, mingled with gasps from some corners of the room. Kimmel stumbles, searching for words, but the rhythm has changed. The stage has morphed into a courtroom, the interview into a trial. Margot, both witness and prosecutor, delivers truth wrapped in eloquence and raw emotion. Minutes later, unable to bear the undercurrent of dismissal masked as humor, she rises. The mic clicks sharply as she adjusts it, eyes fixed, voice unwavering. If this is the platform to mock what I stand for, then I'll leave it. And with that, she storms off. The cameras cut abruptly. The silence that follows is deafening. Outside the set, social media erupts in real time. Clips circulate, headlines flash, debates ignite, everyone scrambling to decode what just happened. Why did Margot Robbie, Hollywood's darling, walk out on Jimmy Kimmel? What truths were exchanged behind that tense pause, and what does this mean for the fragile battleground of gender, power, and performance in the spotlight? The glittering success of Barbie was never just about box office numbers. It was a cultural flashpoint, a mirror held up to Hollywood's contradictions. Margot Robbie, both star and producer, found herself caught in the crossfire of adoration and criticism. On one side, she was hailed as a feminist icon. On the other, castigated as a symbol of woke excess. As the storm brewed, tonight's interview promised a moment of clarity or confrontation. Jimmy began the show with the ease of a seasoned host, his charisma filling the room. The banter flowed naturally, an exchange polished by rehearsals and mutual respect. But when he joked about Barbie teaching girls to hate men, something inside Margot shifted. It wasn't just the words, it was the implication beneath it. Reduction of her complex work and personhood to a punchline. Her smile tightened. The crowd sensed it. You think it's funny, she said quietly, voice low but cutting, because it hides the fact that women are still battling stereotypes, still fighting to be seen as more than objects. The studio hushed. The scripted interview had become unscripted truth. Behind that moment lay years of frustration Margot had buried beneath layers of charm and professionalism. The industry's glaring double standards weighed heavily. Ryan Gosling's praise and nominations contrasting with her own quiet snubs. Invitations to speak were often limited to her looks or charm, not her fierce advocacy or production roles. Tonight was different. Tonight she refused to be silent. The social media storm was instantaneous. Supporters rallied, sharing the clip, with hashtags of solidarity, while critics accused her of overreacting, calling her a diva. News outlets framed the moment as a clash of generations, of ideologies, late-night comedy meeting cultural accountability. Margot's brief statement afterward only deepened intrigue. There are moments when silence becomes complicity. The spotlight pivoted sharply to Jimmy Kimmel. Was this a harmless joke or a deliberate provocation? Kimmel's defenders pointed to comedy's role in pushing boundaries. Others argued this was an example of comedy weaponized to silence dissent. Behind the scenes, reports emerged that the controversial joke was pre-approved by producers seeking a viral moment. The host, found himself unexpectedly on trial. Walking off a national television set is a bold move fraught with risk. Margot's decision was not an impulsive act of anger, but a calculated reclaiming of agency. Her measured tone, deliberate exit conveyed not fury but firm refusal to be demeaned or dismissed. Analysts noted this as a turning point in how female celebrities navigate the power dynamics of media interviews. In the days following, the fallout rippled through Hollywood's corridors. Some insiders viewed her as a troublemaker. Others praised her bravery. High-profile actresses publicly endorsed her stance, sparking wider conversations on late-night interview culture and gender dynamics in entertainment. Advertisers grew cautious. The industry was unsettled. Public intellectuals and feminist commentators seized the moment, framing Margot's walkout as part of a longer history of women using their platforms to disrupt patriarchal norms. Comparisons were drawn to historic acts of protest by cultural figures who challenged the status quo. Yet some saw the moment as narcissistic or theatrical. Then Margot herself stepped forward, publishing a heartfelt essay detailing the personal toll of years spent conforming to industry expectations. She wrote, "If you invite a woman to your stage and mock what she stands for, you are not interviewing her. You are interrogating her. I simply left the room." The essay resonated deeply, transcending celebrity gossip to become a manifesto of resistance. Jimmy Kimmel's response was carefully measured, offering an apology if she felt offended, which critics panned as insufficient. Margot chose silence. Instead, she spoke volumes through her next public appearance, a keynote at the United Nations Women's Summit. There, without naming names, she addressed the broader issues of power, voice, and respect, embodying the very change she demanded. Months later, the incident remains a touchstone in discussions of gender and media. It has inspired new guidelines around consent and respect in interviews, signaling a cultural shift. Margot Robbie's walkout is no longer seen as drama, but as a watershed moment in the ongoing fight for equality and dignity. Sometimes, the most powerful statement is not in the words spoken, but in the silence left behind. Margot didn't just leave a set, she left an indelible mark on history. The thunderous buzz from social media barely settled before the real story began to unfold. Behind the polished veneer of Hollywood's glamour lay a simmering storm, one Margot Robbie had been navigating long before Barbie ever lit up screens worldwide. This was not a momentary clash on live television. It was a culmination of years spent confronting an industry that demanded women be both perfect and silent, powerful yet pliable. The film Barbie was never just a playful fantasy. It was a cultural battleground disguised as a blockbuster. Margot, as both lead actress and producer, became the face of a complicated message, that femininity and feminism can coexist, that pink and power are not mutually exclusive. Yet, the reaction was polarizing. Conservatives accused the film of pushing woke propaganda, while progressives hailed it as a much-needed feminist reclamation. Margot found herself caught between these forces, her public image shaped and reshaped by media narratives she could barely control. In the weeks leading to her appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Margot faced pressure from multiple fronts. Studio executives urged caution, warning that politics had no place on late-night television. At the same time, fervent fans and activists urged her to speak openly about gender inequality, pay disparity, and the systemic objectification rampant in Hollywood. It was a tightrope walk with no safety net. On the surface, the interview was designed to be a victory lap, a light-hearted celebration of success. But beneath the scripted pleasantries and rehearsed jokes, Margot was prepared for a confrontation. The stakes were high. Her reputation, her voice, and the fragile progress of women in film were all on the line. As the cameras rolled, the world watched. The audience expected charm and wit. What they got was the beginning of a reckoning, one that would expose uncomfortable truths. Behind the glittering facade of fame, the atmosphere in the studio shifted subtly but unmistakably as Jimmy Kimmel leaned in, a smile playing at the edges of his lips, ready to land what he thought would be a clever quip. His voice took on a familiar, casual tone, threading humor with a sting. "So Margot, after Barbie teaching girls to hate men, what's next? Barbie teaching critical race theory?" Laughter erupted, light and nervous at first, then louder as the audience embraced the joke. Margot's smile remained, but it was a smile that no longer reached her eyes. The room's energy tightened, as if everyone suddenly sensed the fragile line being crossed. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, a quiet tension built, her fingers gripping the armrest, eyes steady and unwavering. The joke wasn't just a joke, It was a symbol of the very erasure she fought against. It trivialized the battles women faced daily in Hollywood and, beyond, the constant minimization of their struggles under the guise of comedy. Finally, her voice cut through the laughter, calm yet resolute. It's not funny because jokes like that dismiss the real challenges women encounter, being reduced to caricatures, being commodified, having their voices drowned out by punchlines. The audience fell silent, the weight of her words settling like a hush over the studio. Kimmel blinked, caught off guard, scrambling for a retort that never quite came. Margot's gaze held firm, her presence commanding. The interview had shifted from entertainment to confrontation. In that suspended moment, the lights seemed to dim, the stage transforming into an arena where culture, gender, politics, and power dynamics collided. The comedic dance was over. Margot had drawn a line in the sand. Beneath Margot's composed exterior simmered months, no years of quiet frustration. The glitz and glamour of award season had long masked a deeper truth. She had played the likable leading lady role flawlessly. But behind closed doors, the disparity was impossible to ignore. Ryan Gosling, praised endlessly for his role as Ken, garnered multiple nominations, while Margot's own performances were met with surprising silence. The contrast wasn't lost on her. Industry insiders whispered about marketability and audience appeal, phrases that felt like invisible shackles. She was repeatedly asked about her looks or the film's charm, rarely about the struggles behind the scenes, the pay gaps, the lack of agency, the countless compromises. This chapter unpacks the emotional toll of these double standards. Margot's refusal to laugh off Kimmel's joke was the eruption of a dam, long built up an accumulation of silenced voices and unseen battles. The weight of being expected to smile through it all, to be grateful for crumbs thrown her way, had finally become unbearable. Her walkout was not an act of petulance, but a declaration. She was no longer willing to be a silent participant in a system that commodified her and countless other women. This moment was more than an interview gone wrong. It was a reckoning with Hollywood's enduring sexism. As the segment ended and the cameras cut away, the public's reaction was immediate and intense. Social media exploded with clips of Margot's sharp rebuttal and her dramatic exit. The hashtag Margot Robbie deserved better trended worldwide, sparking heated debates across platforms. Supporters lauded her courage, calling her a trailblazer standing up against systemic misogyny in Hollywood. Feminist groups praised her refusal to accept jokes that belittled the very real issues women face in the industry. Meanwhile, critics accused her of overreacting, branding her as a diva unwilling to take a joke. News outlets dissected the moment, framing it as a cultural flashpoint in the ongoing war over gender and power in entertainment. Political commentators debated whether Margot's walkout was a calculated act of activism or a spontaneous emotional response. The conversation spilled from Twitter feeds into mainstream newsrooms, talk shows, and editorial pages. PR team released a brief, measured statement. There are moments when silence becomes complicity. The ambiguity of the message only fueled speculation. For Margot, this wasn't about headlines or public opinion. It was about reclaiming her voice in a world determined to silence it. The interview was no longer just an entertainment segment, was a battleground, and she had just delivered a powerful opening statement. Suddenly, all eyes turned to Jimmy Kimmel himself. For years he had been a late-night titan, blending humor with cultural commentary. But now, the joke that sparked Margot's walkout placed him under an unexpected microscope. Defenders claimed he was playing the role of the provocateur, using satire to challenge and entertain. They argued comedy must push boundaries, even if it makes him uncomfortable. Yet critics countered that Kimmel's joke crossed the line, weaponizing humor to dismiss and belittle serious issues. A viral video essay titled "Late Night Liberalism Is Not Feminism" rapidly gained traction online, dissecting how comedy often masks dismissiveness toward women's struggles. Former guests of Kimmel's show began sharing stories of moments when their voices were minimized or their causes mocked. Behind the scenes, whispers emerged that Kimmel's producers had pre-approved the controversial joke, anticipating the viral potential it carried. The late-night host was no longer just the questioner but was now being interrogated by the public. For the first time, the spotlight shifted from the guest to the host. The court of public opinion was in session, and Jimmy Kimmel was very much on trial. Walking off a nationally televised show is a move you dare to make. It carries risks, reputational, professional, even personal. But Margot's decision was deliberate, not rash. Analysis of her body language, her steady gaze, and the calm tone of her voice reveals a woman reclaiming control. She didn't storm off in anger. She stood, adjusted her mic, and exited with measured grace. Experts in feminist psychology noted this act as one of quiet rebellion, a refusal to be diminished or patronized on a global stage. Colleagues who know Margot describe her as thoughtful and resolute, not impulsive. The walkout was a calculated assertion of agency in a system that often denies women the right to dissent without penalty in that moment. Margot transformed from a compliant starlet into a symbol of resistance. Her exit wasn't just physical, it was an emotional and political statement that echoed far beyond the studio walls. She didn't abandon the conversation, she demanded it be taken seriously. The immediate fallout rippled through Hollywood's power corridors. Advertisers nervously re-evaluated their ABC commitments, wary of associating with controversy. Warner Brothers stayed silent, weighing the potential impact on future projects. Within executive suites, debates flared over whether Margot's walkout was unprofessional or a necessary wake-up call. Meanwhile, support poured in from fellow actresses and activists. Viola Davis tweeted her solidarity, calling Margot's courage inspiring. America Ferrera shared personal stories of media dismissiveness, praising the actress for breaking the silence. Emma Watson echoed these sentiments, highlighting the systemic barriers women continue to face. Yet, some industry insiders whispered warnings. Labels like difficult and political liability were quietly attached to Margot's name. The entertainment industrial complex was unsettled, caught between applauding bravery and preserving the status quo. What unfolded was less a scandal and more a moral reckoning, one that exposed the deep fractures in Hollywood's treatment of its female stars. Margot had rattled a system long resistant to change, and the tremors were only beginning. The cultural moment sparked broader conversations far beyond Hollywood. Universities hosted panels dissecting the exchange, feminist scholars citing it as a textbook example of patriarchal gatekeeping in media. Political commentators debated the balance between free speech and respect, questioning whether late-night comedy had evolved or remained stuck in outdated tropes on daytime television. Heated discussions compared Margot's walkout to historic acts of defiance. Jane Fonda's Vietnam protests, Meghan Markle's break from royal protocol. Some praised it as peak celebrity activism. Others dismissed it as self-serving. But beneath the spectacle lay a profound truth. Margot Robbie wasn't just confronting a late-night host. She was challenging an entire industry's approach to power, voice, and respect. Her act resonated as a call for systemic change, forcing audiences to reconsider the invisible barriers women face daily in the spotlight. In this courtroom of public discourse, Margot's walkout became evidence of a cultural reckoning that few were ready to ignore. A week after the fiery interview, Margot broke her silence with a deeply personal essay published in The Atlantic, titled "Walking Out Wasn't Rage, It Was Rebellion." The piece peeled back the layers behind her public defiance. She recounted years of playing the polite, agreeable woman, of smiling through dismissive questions and minimizing her own pain to avoid controversy. She described the toll of being asked to lighten up, of being told to not rock the boat, and the frustration of watching her contributions erased or overlooked. Margot wrote, "If you invite a woman to your stage and mock what she stands for, you are not interviewing her. You are interrogating her. I simply left the room." The essay struck a chord, transcending celebrity gossip to become a manifesto for anyone tired of being silenced. The honesty and clarity of her words reframed the conversation, shifting public perception from spectacle to substance. Margot wasn't angry. She was resolute. She wasn't just a star. She was a leader demanding to be heard. Jimmy Kimmel's response arrived with cautious diplomacy, a carefully worded apology that some called non-apology. "If Margot felt offended by my joke, that was never my intention." The statement lacked ownership, fueling criticism from activists and fans alike. Margot chose silence in response, refusing to dignify the apology with a public reply. Instead, her actions spoke louder than words. Weeks later, she took the stage at the United Nations Women's Summit, delivering a keynote address titled, "When the Microphone is a Weapon." Without naming names, her speech called attention to the power dynamics embedded in public platforms, the ways voices are amplified or silenced, respected or ridiculed. Her calm fury captivated the global audience, her presence embodying the very change she sought. The contrast was stark. While Kimmel offered guarded words, Margot wielded her platform with purpose and clarity. The walkout was no longer a moment of conflict, but a catalyst for ongoing dialogue about respect, agency, and power. Months after the incident, Margot Robbie's walkout continued to reverberate throughout the entertainment world and beyond, became a defining moment referenced in political podcasts, film school lectures, and feminist forums. Women across industries began citing her actions as a blueprint for asserting agency in hostile environments. What was once dismissed as theatrical drama gradually transformed into a symbol of principled resistance. Hollywood executives initiated conversations about how female stars are treated during interviews, recognizing the need for a more respectful and equitable approach. Late-night shows responded by introducing new guidelines emphasizing consent and collaboration during pre-interview preparations, seeking to prevent situations where guests felt ambushed or disrespected. Margot's act of walking away reshaped industry norms, proving that sometimes stepping off the stage is the loudest way to demand change. Her legacy lives not only in film but in the shifting culture she helped ignite. As the camera fades to black, a simple, powerful quote appears on screen. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is leave. Margot Robbie's walkout was more than a viral moment. It was a profound statement against a system built to diminish women's voices. She didn't just exit a late-night show, she stepped into history, challenging an industry to reckon with its treatment of women. Her silence after the storm spoke volumes, echoing in boardrooms, classrooms, and living rooms around the world. The stage she left was never the end of the story, but the beginning of a movement. In refusing to be silenced, Margot Robbie showed us all the power of walking away, not as defeat, but as defiance, dignity, and demand for respect. The credits roll, the courtroom is adjourned, but the case remains open.